Today on Meet the Farmer TV, we're at the Hasbrouck Farmers Market in the Garden State of New Jersey. We're going to talk to the Secretary of Agriculture, Douglas Fisher, all about Superstorm Sandy, the environment, the state of agriculture in New Jersey, and how things are growing in this great garden state. This program is a production of Meet the Farmer TV, LLC, in association with Planet Earth Diversified, Melli Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design. Now let's talk with George, the market manager here at the Hasbrouck Heights Market. Hey George, how's it going here at the market today?
Hi Michael, everything's going well here. It's our first day of the Hasbrouck Heights Farmers Market. We are expecting some pretty strong storms to come through though, so that might put a damper on things for a little bit. But we have some pretty good interest and moving a lot of produce. Well, the success of a good market is always based on the people in the community. If the people want to have farm fresh produce, they'll come here to the market and patronize one of the farmers. There's a good publicity up here. We got some banners out, some signs out. But we've been here for quite a long time. We've been here 10, 12 years now, and we have a very good following at the market. Local stuff right now that's coming in, we have strawberries, we have peas, we have asparagus. There's a huge variety of greens. I mean, leaf lettuce, romaine lettuce, beets. It goes on and on. Buy local, support your local farmer, and come out to the farmers market.
Thank you, George. Appreciate it. Next on Meet the Farmer TV, from the Garden State of New Jersey, the Secretary of Agriculture, Douglas Fisher. Mr. Secretary, right here in the Garden State of New Jersey, what are the innovations and the special things you're working on?
Nice to see you, Michael. So glad to be here and join with you today. Well, there's so much that we'd like to talk about, but certainly we can talk about our food nutrition program in our schools. So we feed about 650,000 kids a day. School lunch are closer to 700,000 now. And we're trying to incorporate as much local and fresh foods as we can into their menus. And we're developing recipes. We've gotten some grants from USDA to be able to develop recipes through our Food Innovation Center at Rutgers. And so I guess if you asked about what was scalable and be able to duplicate, replicate, that would certainly be one of the areas where we think there's some great promise. Now in New Jersey, we're only of one of 3 states that actually have food nutrition in the Department of Agriculture, the State Department of Agriculture. But we're working with the Department of Education, and this year, just this year, we were able to get a letter signed from the Commissioner of Education to be able to have breakfast in the classroom, breakfast before the bell, sometimes referred to as instructional time, where kids can learn about eating right, best nutritional habits, learning where their food comes from, and really that's as much a part of the curriculum that is so needed for kids today when we talk about childhood obesity. Getting those kinds of nutritious and fresh foods into the classroom, as opposed to children coming to school with no food in their belly at all. So we were able to help get developed a yogurt with fresh berries, all from our Jersey Fresh program, all from New Jersey. And so the kids are actually preferring that over some of the other choices that they could have that are really not so good for them. So we're really excited about that. We're learning how to do tomato products and some rollatini for luncheon menus. And it's all about making it not just presentable, but kids have to want to be able to want this. There has to be demand. I know that from being a grocer. For 30 years I was a grocer before I was Secretary of Agriculture. And if you can't build demand, then you can have all the do-goodness you want to do, all the programs you want to develop, but at some point that child has to make a decision that they're going to choose that and they're going to learn about it. And we're making great progress in New Jersey. In the USDA fruits and vegetable program, where they get to come into a school once again, and we have lots to talk about, but I'll focus on that for just a minute, to be able to come into the schools and actually take a vegetable or a fruit of the week and develop an entire lesson plan around that. They'll plant seeds, they'll have a little garden at the school. There's a lot of new and innovative ways that we can introduce children to the fact that there's so much that we grow right here in our own neighborhoods. And we encourage them to start a garden. We talk about the thrill of being able to put a seed in the ground, germinate it, waiting till it comes to fruition, and picking that off. And it has a very special effect on kids, and they become lifelong consumers of things before perhaps where they just grabbed it and go in the food deserts, where they might just go to a fast food, get a big soda and a burger and fry, and that's okay at times, but it can't be a steady diet of that, and that's what we're encouraging them to think about. The food desert essentially says that in many of the areas that are underserved by local agriculture, they don't have fresh fruits and vegetables in their neighborhoods. They have a lot of food, but it's essentially one type of food, and many times it's fast food, which is, while companies are making a big effort to expand their menus to include salads, at the same time, food desert means that they're not getting the opportunities to get fresh, local, nearby grown foodstuffs. Another thing that we could talk about that's scalable that we've witnessed, I'm president of NIASA, which is the 10 Northeast States of Agriculture this year, and we hosted the convention in Cape May, New Jersey. Now, one of the things that we were able to witness was one of our operators who has several hotel properties around in Cape May County. He also has a farm, and so what he has done is grow the crops that he feels are necessary to be able to help supply his own restaurants, and he's made quite a run at it, and so it's really an amazing operation to see, where they meet with the chefs and decide what they should grow for the coming season, and then they develop a sort of a plan, a farm plan that's based on what they anticipate will be their demand. And they grow all their own herbs, all their own vegetables. They even have their own pigs and chickens, free range actually. And it's amazing to be able to get the business side. Here was a fellow named Curtis Bradshaw, who was a Wharton graduate, has an MBA, and he's developed a plan to sort of incorporate what's going on his farm in the area with the restaurateurs, his own and others as well, and it's really quite remarkable and quite successful.
Well, that's great. Now tell me, what is the state of agriculture in New Jersey? What sort of amount of money is it producing? How many people are involved in that?
Sure. Well, first of all, there's 10,000 farms in New Jersey, from various sizes, of course, like every state. But we have, it's billions of dollars of farm gate. We're in the top 10 commodities in so many areas. For instance, alternates from year to year, but last year we were number 2 in blueberries, high bush blueberries in the nation, largest blueberry farm in the world. We have cranberries, which is a big part of the industry here. Horticulture is our number 1, accounting for about $500 million a year. Our sire stakes programs, it's varied because we grow over 100 varieties of crops in the state. And we're close into the New York market, the Baltimore, Washington, points west and north and south. And so we have a number of areas that we're very much leading innovators in, and also have huge markets for. But we grow so many things that it's almost hard to pigeonhole us into one area, except to say it's billions and several billions of dollars, not just the NAS billions that are counted, but so many other varieties that are grown in the state.
What do you see as the future of agriculture for New Jersey, and what is it you're trying to accomplish?
Well, the future is that it's changing. And so if you're just going to be a commodity grower and be a price taker, as opposed to what we hear sometimes, price takers and price makers, it could be a difficult time. Not to say that we don't have huge operations. Even in New Jersey, we have 2,000-3,000 acre farms that are growing growing commodities, and it's quite successful at it. But the change is that what we grow is changing. For instance, right now we have a number of fellows that are growing and gals that are growing greens, microgreens, and they're doing it. They can do $400,000 worth of crop in an acre. We have people developing new technologies all the time. So as long as you're changing, the way we look at it is there are all these millions of people around us. It makes sense from a carbon perspective. carbon perspective to be able to supply that demand. But you have to change at times, right? And so we do that. We have food processing here. I think the answer is, the question is how to adapt, and we're very adaptable. You know, we're almost 9 million people in less than 5 million acres, of which 2 million of those acres are woodland. 1 million is about 750,000 acres of farmland. As long as we continue to look at the market around us and what it's looking for, ethnic specialties are exploding. We're growing crops that nobody even heard of before. We've imported, there's a fella who's growing something called the peppadew, where he found it in South Africa, and now New Jersey is the national headquarters for the peppadew. We're growing those peppers here, and they're used in so many value-added products. So value-added is another area that we look to make sure that we can help extend our seasons, to find new uses for products, and that's very much a part of our strategy. And we've had some great successes. People have developed peach ciders, they've developed salsas, they have line extensions within their own farm operation. And so, you know, farmers love to grow. What we try to do is help focus more on the marketing side and help them with that. Most of our farmers don't need any help telling them how to grow. What they need help is finding those markets to be able to grow and cater to.
Well, that sounds great. Now, you know, one of the things that I see in state agriculture departments is there's often a push to try to help the farmers market and maybe help some larger organizations get started, especially in those value-added or you know, a processing sort of operation. But now with the president's push on the food safety and the FDA kind of suddenly having access to every place food is grown, processed, and handled, there's a whole lot of uncertainty what we need to do as a grower to keep that food safe and meet all of these regulations and be able to supply something to some of these new value-added systems without finding ourselves liable for some huge recall and problem that we end up losing the family farm over.
We've had conversations with FDA. We've had some forums in the Northeast here. We've worked with Mike Taylor to try to explain that as we phase into this thing, we want to make sure that we don't put our farmers out of business. Very large agribusiness is probably the easiest for them to adapt. Some of the smaller operators are going to need more time. But when you're looking at food safety, and which is FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act, we know that everyone wants to make sure that their food supply is safe. And we also know that America's food supply is, if not the safest, one of the most safe food systems in the world. And so we have to make sure that there's not an overzealous response to a couple of scares that happen, which ultimately will happen. It can occur. I mean, anything can happen. But we know, and we're working with FDA just to address that issue. How do we make sure that we don't lose our smaller farmers, our smaller operations, who have to be able to comply and still be able to make a profit and have a living for their family? And at the same time know that with traceability, you know, we do have to know every step of the way. And we're getting extraordinarily good at it. We can tell you what field it grew in. We can tell you where it went, who touched it, what machine went through. And but there's lots of discussions that have to take place to make sure that those rules aren't just developed without any real thought, as much thought as needed to be given to what it means to our individual farmers across the country. And small farmers, very small farmers, you know, in some ways have a different sensibility about where their product goes and how it's dealt with and who gets it and how they can trace it.
Jersey's known as the Garden State. You got beautiful soil, wonderful environment, a lot of talented farmers. And I know as Secretary of Agriculture, you're there to really make that happen in the state and protect the farmers and really build that economic engine of agriculture. And one of the things that's happened to us here in Virginia recently is the Chinese company is interested in buying Smithfield. And Smithfield ham's pretty famous in Virginia. And I wonder how you would how do you handle things like that, the sort of globalization where we not only have CSAs and farmers markets, but we also become the food source for the whole world, and other countries kind of want to use our farmland and buy up our agricultural enterprises?
So you're asking about the globalization of farming and what it means in terms of world markets. Well, of course, naturally we want to export, and it's probably the biggest glowing success in our economy right now in the United States is the $120 billion of exports that I think that's the number that we do in this country. And obviously people look to American foods. They very much trust the American food sources. And we hear that all the time from some of the global partners, that they very much want to be able to get American foodstuffs. And it's demonstrated by what they buy. But you also mentioned about companies coming in and buying up the processors in this country. Well, as the Department of Agriculture, our concern is about growing and about making sure that we have markets for our foodstuffs. And we really don't concern ourselves that much as long as the jobs are still here. So no matter what company comes in, as long as they stay here, remain here, develop the industry, actually these are investments that are being made here. But the question is, can we preserve our American jobs? And what I've seen is very, very much so. In fact, in some states, I know that it's considered to be some of that foreign capital coming in. They're very much courting, frankly. And so we focus on, as I said, the jobs, and we focus on being able to maintain the farm infrastructure that we have with the 700 and some thousand acres that we have here.
Very good. So the sort of the flip side of that globalization and America feeding the world is the small farmers and the people starting out in the next generation and the young people. And that really might be sort of the focus of a farmer's market, like where you're touring, CSAs, small community supported agriculture. Tell me how that's working in New Jersey.
We're having a great renaissance of folks coming in to New Jersey and wanting to get into farming. And so we encourage that. We help develop beginning farmers. And it's really people from all walks of life. There's a certain romance that comes with people that have sort of cashed in their careers and have decided that they actually do want to farm, that they want to produce local artisan foods. And we're seeing that clearly here because, as I said earlier, we have the markets for it. So we've had stockbrokers leave New York City and come in and start a cheese farm. We have a very well-renowned economist who decided that he wanted to go into the dairy business, makes his own cheeses, very fashionable cheese. And we have Buffalo Farmer. So there's a lot of niche markets that are here that are developing. So that's what I meant about the changing and evolving nature of farming. You can have 200 acres and perhaps make as much on a 5-acre exception or a 5-acre piece having a farm stand as you can on the other 195 acres. And so we have lots of farmers markets in New Jersey, particularly in the urban areas, and great farmers that are coming in and plying their foodstuffs right here at the markets. We also have a developing CSA economy where very creative CSAs, and every CSA operates a bit differently. Some they go into just a factory or a commerce center. They deliver into this one building and are able to have that CAs develop in one site. Others, there's so many different models, but they all have captured the imagination of a lot of people that really want to go into farming. New Jersey, by the way, our Jersey Fresh program is the first state-branded program in the country, and it's modeled all the time, and we've never changed in almost 29 years the Jersey Fresh. Other states kind of have a different tag, then they come up with a different label. Somebody else comes in, a new commissioner, new secretary, wants to change it and make their mark. We stay with Jersey Fresh, and in fact, the brand recognition of our Jersey Fresh ranks up there with Ready Pack, Del Monte. In fact, we're higher. Some of the studies show that we actually have higher brand recognition for that. So we even have in New York City a web page from a company called Fresh Direct. It's on their page, and because people know that they can get their New Jersey just grown, just picked premium products into the city. So there's lots of areas for opportunity, but you really have to think about how you can meet that demand.
All right, so that's really where you kind of see the next generation of New Jersey farmers coming from.
So the next generation is a combination, like everything, right? So we have farmers here that have been farming for 10 generations, going into their 11th, 11th generation. And we have several of those, the farming families that just know what they need to do. And that will continue. We also have folks coming in that, yes, they will be looking at an adaptable, changing market, and they will grow to that market. So the future is really quite bright in our state. And people that say, we've heard people say farming's dead, it's not dead. It can't be dead. People are still eating. People are still, beautifying their homes and their houses with plants and flowers and shrubs. That all takes place. And the demand for local, the demand for nearby, eclipses everything. In fact, we have organic operators that are doing fabulously well. We have distributors that are distributing based on strictly organic routes. There's room for all of it, but you have to be creative. You can't just sit back. But that's the same in any business. I don't care what business you're in. If you just do the same thing year after year, you're guaranteed failure if you don't look around you.
So, as Secretary of Agriculture for the Garden State of New Jersey, what do you really hope to accomplish in your tenure, and what's really important to you?
What's personally important to me, of course, is as every Secretary of Agriculture or Commissioner that we make sure that we maintain this land mass, this base of agriculture in our state. When the mad rush was going on in the boom times in the 08s, 09s, or 06s, 07s, I guess, land was just being scooped up and turned into developments. We don't want that, and our people in our state don't want that. And we have farmland preservation programs, one of the most successful in the country. Billions of dollars have been spent to preserve farmland. So we want to make sure that we have a preserved farmland. We want to make sure that we have an agricultural base and farmland. To the farmers, I think my mark simply is my history. I was a former county commissioner, a former legislator, I'm a cabinet member now, a former grocer, butcher, baker. You roll all that into one, and what I'm trying to say is, my mark is, you don't just jump to conclusions. And I've tried to interact with legislators to show them the enormity of what we produce here in the state. I didn't even talk about seafood, which my department is in charge of promoting. We have $170 million of just seafood. We're the number 2 scallop landing sea scallops in the country. We're the largest surf clams in the world. So it's to show the enormity and the agriculture, the scope and breadth of agriculture and how it affects everyone in this state.
Yeah, I'm in the rain here and you're in the hot sun, so we've got some wild weather happening. But speaking of growing conditions and the environment, how's the weather been? I mean, you've had some pretty nasty storms, and how are things growing in New Jersey?
Well, right now things are just fine. Superstorm Sandy thank goodness, was at the end of the growing season in October, and Hurricane Irene actually did more damage the year before than Sandy did for our farmers. Obviously, for our state and the Barrier Islands, it was devastation on the grandest of all scales. So the season right now is, while obviously it was a little cooler, it remained cool and the ground didn't warm up as fast. Right now we're going gangbusters. In fact, our blueberries are being picked just this week. Starting this week, we expect a big crop. And so, like everything, right now, if it stays warm and we've already had a good amount of rainfall, we're going to have a great season. In fact, our new tagline for Jersey Fresh is another great season. And we're going to be using that. You're going to hear more and more about another great season.
First, I want to give you an opportunity. If there's anything we haven't covered that you think's important to say, is there anything you want to add?
I think what I'd like to add is just that it's clear that Americans cherish their family farms and their growing enterprises across this country, which sometimes gets confused with the messages that people that grab a hold of what we do and use it for their own purpose. And so I hope that we can more unify what it is that we want Congress to do with the Farm Bill, that we get a Farm Bill, that we deal with some of the issues in a responsible way when we have trouble getting labor on our farms. You know, there are a number of areas where agriculture pretty much has the answers. We need to get people to listen in Washington, and the only way they'll do that is if we can have a coalescence of and a unity of thought about the big issues. That's one of the things that I hope for, and I'm working towards.
So, Mr. Secretary, we've been talking here for a while, and there's somebody that's been working pretty hard behind you. Can you tell me what's going on there?
Sure. Well, we're here at the Farmers Market, one of the many in the state, and Hasbrouck Heights, and so we have Ryan over here from Hoboken Farms, and he's one of the local vendors that's come to this market for quite a while. Ryan?
How's it going?
So, Brian, you've been so busy there working while we've been chatting. What are you doing?
We're selling over here. We're selling fresh bread from North Bergen, New Jersey, and local growing beef, pork, and chicken from local farms also in New Jersey. Just getting fresh product out to the consumers.
That's great. So you're farming as well as creating some home processed products?
Yeah, it's all, we have pre-packaged frozen foods. We have breads, homemade mozzarellas, and fresh jarred marinara sauce.
So that should make you hungry.
Yeah, that's great. So tell me, what's it like being a famous New Jersey farmer?
It's quite enjoying. It's very glamorous, you know, lots of yacht trips. No, it's honestly, it's a lot of fun. It's fun getting good food out there to good people, and especially in places where everybody needs it.
And they go to several markets around the state.
Yep, 30 every week.
My goodness, that ought to keep you pretty busy.
That's a trip. That's
Yep.
a trek.
Not me personally.
No, I understand. Thank you,
guys.
Ryan.
Have a good day.
Thanks to Hoboken Farms.
All right.
Hey, this has been great talking to you. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap this thing up? How people can contact you, or websites, email, that sort of thing?
Well, let me just say, my boss, Governor Christie, would be upset if I forgot to mention our Jersey Fresh website. So Governor Christie is very supportive of agriculture in this state, and our website is jerseyfresh.nj.gov. So go over there, take a peek, and of course we also have our department webpage as well. So hope you'll come and visit us.
So there you have it, the state of agriculture from the Secretary of Agriculture in the Garden State of New Jersey, Douglas Fisher. This program is a production of Meet the Farmer TV, LLC, in association with Planet Earth Diversified, Melli Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design.
Nice. This is Mr. Dr.
It's okay. We actually,
Well known all around the state.
everybody here actually has a little bit of a claim to the name Dr. Pickle. I myself happen to be a chef for about 6 or 7 years. My
Yeah.
boss Todd actually happened to be an international stockbroker dealing with cucumbers on the market.
Wait. International stockbroker and dealing in cucumbers.
Dealing in cucumbers on the market.
Oh, on the market.
Yeah,
okay.
so same idea between, selling coffee beans or something like that.
Right.
He was selling cucumbers.
Uh-huh.
And they go ahead and they pick them off there to sell for us.
Everybody's got, in New Jersey, there's always a special story at just about everything, because we're so many people compacted in this great state, and our neighbors are usually very close for the most part, and we have lots of stories to tell, don't we?
Never hurts. Thanks for an interesting day.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Nothing to me? Why not? That's it.